All right, welcome everybody to another Capital Technology University LinkedIn Live. I'm your host, Brad Sims. I'm president of Capital Tech. And today we're going to talk a little bit about cyberpsychology, and we have a recent doctoral graduate of the Forensic Cyberpsychology program. With me today, I have Professor Mary Aiken, who is our department chair for cyberpsychology, and we have Dr. Marshall Rich, who is a recent graduate of the PhD in Forensic Cyberpsychology program. So, welcome everybody. So, let's jump into it. And first of all, if Dr. Aiken, if you could highlight the disciplines of cyberpsychology and forensic cyberpsychology.
Certainly. So, cyberpsychology is the study of the impact of technology on human behavior. It's an advanced discipline within applied psychology. And forensic cyberpsychology focuses on criminal, harmful, and abnormal behaviors online. And I'm proud to say that I have pioneered this field. I attained the first full PhD in forensic cyberpsychology. And to the best of my knowledge, and anybody can feel free to write in and make a comment, Dr. Marshall Rich is the second person to get a full PhD in the topic. I'm also delighted to say that the landmark textbook in forensic psychology, so that's real world forensic psychology, has in the most recent publication, which has just been published, included a chapter on a segment on the utility of cyberpsychology and forensic cyberpsychology. So that's a big win for the disciplines, and do check out the publication.
Excellent. Let's jump over to Dr. Rich. You've recently completed your PhD in forensic cyberpsychology. Can you please describe your research and your doctoral journey?
Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity to share my journey. It really started for me probably back in around 2013 when I moved up to Washington, D.C., and I began working for the United States Institute of Peace. I'm a senior expert in cybersecurity there, and really it allowed me to further my research, apply a lot of the cyber skills that I had ascertained over the years. But really the thing that really sparked my passion was the work that I was able to do with various agencies, especially with law enforcement. And I saw the need, for long-term data collection, processing, investigations, evidence preservation, machine learning, predictive models, continuous refinement, and really understanding our adversaries out there, at least from a behavioral standpoint. So one of the things that really helped me there, and the support that I have at the Institute, was that I was always challenged by my bosses to look for better methods. Don't be afraid to start over, especially if it's necessary and you can do things better. So I started applying a lot of this with the law enforcement community, all the three-letter agencies that support the federal government, and they started opening up some of my eyes. And really, one of the things that helped me see a broader picture, especially from the cyber psychology standpoint, was a book called The Cyber Effect. And I first started reading that probably towards the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. And I really didn't draw any correlations just yet, but I had also been watching the CS Cyber hit show, and it really I started seeing different things, and I really became interested. And for the first time, I could actually say to my wife and my children, "Hey, that's what I want to do. That's me right there." And the irony is that it's all about Dr. Mary Aiken and her work in the field, to include the book, The Cyber Effect. Really, what drew me to Capital Tech was a cyber psychology student that was on LinkedIn. I saw this and I did not quite understand exactly what this was from an academic standpoint. And I just started looking at it, and I conversed with the student online, and that helped me really set my path. And I spent probably the first year before I even went into the program just immersing myself in the field. I wanted to learn as much as I could and really understand how I could use that framework and what my interest and passions were in. So it really helped me define a clearer vision and kind of what my research questions and objectives, what I wanted to accomplish. So I met Dr. McAndrew. He hooked me up right away with an outstanding dissertation committee, Dr. Griffin and Dr. Mueller. They were really spot on and really helping me to understand, what I wanted to do for the broader community. And even though they didn't have the technical expertise in the area, they really helped me refine my and shaking off those cobwebs and reconnecting me to the scientific inquiry, how to conduct academic research, and so on. So one of the things that really intrigued me about the cyber psychology and the forensic cyber psychology was it was the combination of combining the behavioral sciences with digital forensics and then traditional security measures. I felt that I had a good, strong background in both the digital forensics and the traditional security methods, but I didn't have the behavioral sciences just yet. Even though I had been immersed myself into it, I still really didn't have the expertise that I needed. So what I did was I selected the 3-paper option instead of writing a dissertation. And I went down the path of trying to connect my strong skill sets with the behavioral science piece. And this was really grounded in my first article. What I did was I used Microsoft 365 security logs, out of the cloud environment. And what I did was I developed a model using open source intelligence feeds and just a combination of converting categorical data into a metric that I could use statistically. I was able to then trend out and show patterns of adversarial behavior and actually even some vulnerabilities. So this process really helped me set the initial framework, and it really grounded my study for my follow-on articles. So the second article was a longitudinal study, and this was data that was captured from a deception system or a honeypot, and it collected data for well over 6 years. But I focused in on just 6 years worth of data, and I had a little over almost 600 million records, so a little over 500 million. And I was really able to then capture the tactics, the techniques, the procedures from a digital forensics and a traditional standpoint. But really what I wanted to do was take what I learned in my first paper from the behavioral sciences side, and I wanted to improve and enhance that with a much larger data set. And the outcome that came out of that study was what I'm going to call the cyber behavioral score. And what I was able to do was rank a score between 0 and 136, I guess it was for that particular paper. And basically it was a risk factor based upon the network behavior of the adversary. This cyber behavioral score is what really set me up for my final and third paper. Now, the idea behind the third paper was I wanted to now focus in on the cyber behavioral sciences and combining that with the technical dimensions that I was strong in with my first 2 papers. And what came out of this was the development of the cyber forensics behavioral analysis model. Along through this process, I was working through the entire paper with Dr. Mary Aiken, and she really helped me set the foundation and the outline of the paper. And once, she kind of just poked me and pointed me in a direction, and I went down that path. And I would come back and we would refine it. And the bulk of the work was on my side, but she really helped fine tune that thing. And most importantly, because I wanted to conquer the world, I wanted to have the ultimate model for everything. But I realized that, you can't do that. You have to really, scope in your work, and you have to develop the structure of the paper, the structure of the research that you want to do, and also the structure of the outcome and what you're trying to present. So we want to make sure that it's meaningful and it's something that can be used. So the framework used the development of the cyber behavioral score in the second paper. And what I was able to then do was use and combine it with a predictive model. And specifically at this point, I was focusing in on internet service providers, and I had access to multiple ISPs, both tier 1 and tier 2. And I had access to their security events or their syslogs. And I was able to utilize that data. And I was able to, across multiple ISPs, collect or utilize a 2-year period. So not quite longitudinal, but enough data there that it was worthwhile to be able to, from a machine learning standpoint, develop a predictive model using this behavioral science score. So what I was able to do then was predict an adversarial ASN threat. And I was able to predict on a particular ISP the behavior of that ISP up to 45 days out. And I was 70% successful in being able to correctly predict the behavior of the ASN. So that really ratified the cyber behavioral science model and the integration with it and combining it with the technical dimensions. So I hope that wasn't too technical, but it was a very rigorous data processing analysis. I maintained very strict ethical guidelines through the entire process, anonymizing all the data. I ensured accuracy and reliability, and I just tried to ground myself on as much as I could on the contemporary cybersecurity models that were out there. So I hope that helps, and I do want to extend my gratitude to everyone in supporting me through this. It very much was a transformative journey.
As like I like to always tell PhD students, I think it's a lot of work, but it's always rewarding when you're done with it. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but that's kind of my thought about it. Dr. Aiken, Dr. Rich just completed his PhD in forensic cyberpsychology, and of course here at Capital Tech you have both the master's level cyberpsychology and forensic cyberpsychology and the PhDs in cyberpsychology and forensic cyberpsychology. What are the benefits of completing either this master's or doctoral degree in these areas?
I think it's incredibly beneficial. What you're talking about is working at the cutting edge of human behavior and technology. And whatever sector you're working in at the moment, or whatever sector you aspire to work in, whether it's the tech sector, whether it's fintech or health tech or ed tech or reg tech, or if you want to work for government agencies, or you want to work for law enforcement, or you want to work in the policy area, having a higher level degree in cyberpsychology or forensic cyberpsychology is an incredible addition to your qualifications and to your skill set. A master's is a great way of familiarizing yourself with the topic. A doctorate is obviously much more of a commitment. And as Dr. Rich has said, it's something whereby you have to really refine down your choices and understand what you're going to do and what you're going to focus on. Otherwise, it can become overwhelming. So, you can't boil the ocean. You have to be very focused, and you have to be very structured, especially if you're doing your PhD by publication. I say there are three important things when you're writing your papers is structure, structure, and structure. You really know where you're going and create an outline for each paper. So a subject like forensic cyberpsychology, it's very attractive in terms of a higher level qualification. Why? Because it's this cutting edge emerging discipline. I studied psychology back in the day, and when I came across forensic cyberpsychology, I thought, wow, this is fantastic, because it was a chance to engage with a new scientific frontier. It was a chance to develop new scientific theories and protocols, or to adapt existing psychological and criminological theories, as Dr. Rich has done in his work. And all of this with a view to staging cybercrime intervention or prevention. So it doesn't matter whether you're from a sort of computer science or infosec background, or if you're from a social or behavioral science background. People from a diverse range of previous qualifications or experience can actually undertake higher level degrees in forensic cyberpsychology and in cyberpsychology.
Excellent. You might also just touch on a bit of why it's important the cyber psychology area is really with the technical school instead of a college of social science and another type of school.
Absolutely. Cyber psychology covers a very, very broad range, everything from developmental cyber psychology through to educational cyber psychology, through to social cyber psychology. My preference, and this is my personal preference, has always been that swing towards more forensic aspects, more technical aspects. And I think because we are living in a world mediated by technology, the lead aspect has to be the technological application. We're all living, working, playing, growing up in cyberspace, and understanding human behavior mediated by technology is critical. This isn't about real world behavior, although there is a symbiotic relationship between the real world and cyberspace or the online world. But I think that the technical aspects are critical, and that's why it's important. It sits with a university like CapTech, which is one of the leading STEM universities in the Washington, D.C. area, if not the whole of the East Coast.
Thank you. I'm just going to jump back here to Dr. Rich and say, do you have any tips for potential PhD candidates?
Structure, structure, and structure. It took me probably about 3 rounds in the boxing ring before I figured that out. It is very important. Just as Dr. Aiken said, you can't boil the ocean, and I certainly wanted to boil all 7 of them. So you can't do it. You really do have to focus in on your area of expertise, and I can't. For me, Capital Tech was the right place at the right time. Exactly what Dr. Aiken was just saying, and that how you don't have to be an expert in psychology, but it really, the program aligned perfectly with me because of the forensics and the technical background that I already have, and my interest to stay in that field, but wanting to understand the cyber behavioral sciences and how I could apply that. So it's a great opportunity, and anybody that wants to reach out to me can certainly do that from a student perspective, and I'd be glad to talk to you about it. The only other thing I would say, being on the emerging field of cyber psychology, and specifically forensic cyber psychology, is there's not a lot of experts out there, as Dr. Aiken alluded to at the very beginning of the talk. So actually in my last paper, if you recall, Dr. Aiken, just because of the lack of forensic cyber psychology experts, we had 5 peer reviewers for my paper. So which was almost shocking for me when I first got them back. But it worked out.
Yeah, it's always a challenge when you're interdisciplinary, especially when you're submitting to journals, is, finding a journal that can actually navigate, both tech and behavioral science, a sort of, the hybrid. And that's very often why in the peer review process, they'll use more reviewers because they want to get that combination of people either have the appropriate level of technical knowledge or the appropriate level of social or behavioral scientific knowledge. So yes, it's not easy, but you got there and you got
Yep.
all three published, and congratulations.
I'll get a comment here. I'm gonna pull it up. Are there any cyberpsychology elective courses that one can take at Capital Tech? I'm currently doing a master's in cybersecurity and believe it'd be great for me to dip my toes in this a little bit. Well, let me just start off, and anybody else can jump in. But so at Capital Technology University, the way that the masters in cyberpsychology or forensic cyberpsychology, as well as the doctorate, are laid out, they are purely research degrees. So it's about the research in that specific area, and you're working with a mentor who is an expert in that field. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Aiken, because I believe my approach would be on her website. She has many resources that you can read, and I don't know how many, but I'm sure that that's just a partial list. I think Dr. Rich was even talking about earlier on resources he pulled up. So I think you can get a lot of information out there from these websites. I'll turn it over to Dr. Aiken.
Yeah, certainly. No, we don't offer a specific module in cyberpsychology at the moment, but that's not to say in time we may consider that, or even a diploma or a certification in cyberpsychology. I think it's something I'm asked a lot of the time, where people want to actually sort of dip their toe in the science and understand what's involved, maybe before committing to a more formal process. I think that, yeah, if you go to my website, maryaiken.com, you'll see all my publications. And if you want to take a couple of months, you can read them. There's a lot of information there. Also, you can Google me for talks, which may be an easier form of sort of assimilating some of the information. And there are lots of other people, giving talks and presenting work in the area of cyberpsychology. So I would just do a good search and read as much information as you can, and then see how that you can weave that into your existing master's course.
There's actually some good YouTube videos from Capital Tech with Dr. Aiken talking about everything that she just did. So yeah, so there's a lot out there, and she's.
So there's a lot of good free resources besides Dr. Aiken's books that you can purchase through Amazon. The program itself, Dr. Aiken, how do you typically apply for the PhD programs at Capital Tech?
So the best way to do that is to reach out to the dean, Ian McAndrew. So Dr. Ian McAndrew. So what I will do is, when we've finished this chat and it's posted on LinkedIn, I will drop his email into the comments, and then you can drop him a note and he will get back to you and have a chat about the courses that are on offer, about entry requirements, and about your suitability in terms of your existing qualifications to date.
At the bottom of the screen, if you are watching this as a video, you'll see Dr. McAndrew's email address. You can reach out to him. He lives in the UK time zone, and he handles kind of the general information of any of our doctoral programs. So you can send him an email. He'll call you and talk to you about it. The master's and doctoral programs each month have an online open house you can register for free. So if you go to the Capital Technology website and you're looking at any specific master's or doc program, on the bottom of the page there's a button to register for the next information session. which generally the PhD is on a Sunday afternoon in the Eastern time zone, the US. And Dr. McAndrew leads that whole 1 hour session. And there's usually a master's session on a Wednesday in an evening time zone in the US once a month. Again, you can register by clicking that button and you can hear more about it, or you can email Dr. McAndrew directly anytime. He's happy to schedule time to sit down and cover any of your questions on the program. Applications, we run year round, so you can apply anytime, and there's technically 3 starts a year. One's in January, one's in May, and one's at the end of August, for these programs, masters and doc. So you can, again, whenever you put in your application, you can be admitted to the next semester start if you're interested in that. They talk about that in the open houses as well. Um, Once you get in the program, whether it's a master's degree in cyberpsychology or PhD in these areas, after you start the program, Dr. McAndrew will work with you based on your area of research that you're interested in, and then they find a chair for you to work on your whatever area of interest is. So a chair will guide you through it. Here in the US, of course, the master's area, we call it a thesis, and that's what you produce typically. And the doctoral area, we call it a dissertation, and that's what you end up typically producing out of the doctoral program. Um, there are some folks who do it through a publication route. Um, and I think, Dr. Rich, you did it correctly through the dissertation. And so you do defend it just like you do a dissertation. So it's not any easier. And it may be even longer sometimes to go through the publication route because you don't know the publication dates. Dissertation, if you follow the process, most likely if you went in a doctoral program and you took your sequencing of a class each semester, you would probably be done in about 3 1/3 years would be an average time frame for a doc student. A master's student would be about a 12-month process to go through it all for 30 credits. So different time frames, but the products are similar because you're doing purely research on your topical area that you're interested in, with your chair being somebody who is knowledgeable in that area that helps guide you through the process. So we're getting close to our end here. Does Dr. Aiken and Dr. Rich, do you have any final thoughts here as we come to the close of our 30 minutes?
I just wanted to say well done to Dr. Rich once again for working so hard and producing 3 excellent publications that are, major contributors to the emerging field of forensic cyberpsychology. So well done.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
And I want to thank everybody who tuned in for today's Capital Tech LinkedIn Live. It'll be automatically uploaded to LinkedIn, and also a YouTube link will come out later on. It'll be posted in the comment section for anybody who wants to listen to it later. So thanks to everybody today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I can't tell if it's over.
I think we're offline now. No,
I haven't used this before. It says live on it.
it's still live, yeah.